Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and CA has put out a blog. This is in preparation for the Ides of March, which is the 15th. This blog talks about sieges. So right off the bat, I like when CA approaches this, they basically state here's the way things have been done in the past and here's how we're going to change it. So they talk about sieges and how in the past it was rather formulaic, and they break it down in this sense. You had a lengthy bombardment where you try and smash down towers, catapults on the defender's side, walls, and you try and kind of prepare for the assault. Then after that, it's kind of the intricate street battles, and then finally it's a fight at the multiple capture points. CA has said that they are tinkering with this and deciding to change it up when it comes to Total War Warhammer. And the way they're going to do this is they're going to try and focus it, they say here, on the fight for the walls, especially for the big siege battles. What they do say here is, for instance, you can only attack a city in a reduced direction, so I don't think anymore we'll have the 360 degrees options for attacking. Now in some settlements and minor settlements I assume you will, but it says here you can't attack a city from any direction now after all. So some of the larger cities presumably will have you funneled into one area. That's just like the Dwarven Karaks, which are built into the mountains, so of course there's only one way in. It might be a little different for the Empire, but I kind of like this approach. And what they say is this forces you to tackle the walls. Now the walls themselves are going to be meant for open warfare, so the walls are going to be much wider, allowing for much more combat to develop on those fronts. The first image that we see here is essentially of a battle tower moving up. The dwarves up here having a lot more leg room to sprawl out, have charges, a lot more variety here, so you can fit multiple units up on the walls. In this case, you can also see the additional 3D mechanic of the battlefield, where it's not just siege towers getting to the walls, you also have gyrocopters flying over, doom divers flying over. You could potentially have, dragons and other winged units fly over the walls and start causing preemptive damage. So sieges are going to be much more different. The main thing that they talk about here is that when the fight reaches the walls, you'll find that the wall sections are much broader, have a larger footprint. This means there's more room to maneuver, and you have more options once you decide to engage. They do say that each race has its own powerful outward-facing ranged towers firing on the attacker from afar. We have seen previous versions of that when it came to the Empire tech tree. The more leveled up your city got, the more tower kind of attack it had. So low level you presumably had arrows, but the higher level towers we saw had bombs and cannons. The Dwarven Karaks are going to be similar. I really wonder what the orc equivalent is going to be like. They say the siege towers and battering rams can be built over turns of a siege on the campaign map. That's similar to what we've seen before. You still have ladders, which are made for quick access, although they're unprotected. That's something we've seen before. One of the interesting things that they note here is that you don't really need battering rams in some cases. You can actually use monsters such as club-wielding giants who are perfectly capable of smashing their way through city gates. So that is going to be way, way epic. Just for the thematic effect of having, yourself hold up an Altdorf, and then there's a giant coming up, running up and smashing on the gates with little, peasants on the backside of that gate just hearing a thump, thump, thump. So that is going to be pretty cool, just bringing all types of forces to bear. To reflect the changes, they say that once you get inside of the city itself, there's going to be broader streets and town squares where you can effectively execute maneuvers. There's more readability, they say, in terms of pushing through the city, so not as intricate as some of the other cities we've seen in the past. I think that will be kind of detrimental, but they make up for it by having these wide lanes and avenues, which is always useful. And hopefully it reduces the amount of grind festing that we have. And there is a single victory point in the center. Races have their own unique architecture too, and you'll see that there is a range of different looking cities. The image we see in the background here is going to be from the perspective of the greenskin attackers. Take a look at this Empire city. I believe this is Altdorf, but as was mentioned, there is only one real main approach to the city, the long line in front here. So that could be perhaps detrimental in that you can only assault from one place, but it really focuses up and tightens up the action on these walls. And it throws everything down through the front. So this will be pretty interesting, and I guess it was required to keep, because of the addition of having flying units that could get over their walls. If you could deploy 360 around a city and you have flying units around the city, then it would just totally, these defenses would fall apart, and I assume that the AI would be incapable of handling them. So by focusing the attack from one front, it's going to be way easier on the AI and way easier on human players. Now, when it comes to the AI, they talk here about the way it handles situations a bit differently. Again, you have to take all the AI comments that they throw out there with a grain of salt, but I think it does make more sense when there is greater simplicity and less choices to be made. The AI will definitely perform better. So that is one of the advantages of this system. It does say that the AI will be more cautious when it attacks. It won't necessarily throw everything into the fight right away. It will have a type of reserve system. We've seen this in previous Total War games, so I'm not quite sure how different this is. So this could be PR talk. But anyways, they say the AI makes a concerted effort to kind of hold back forces if it doesn't need to throw more in, but that it does know when to throw more in case there's about to be a breakthrough. This also applies to allied AI players who, for instance, if they're reinforcing you in the attack, CA here mentions that they are not necessarily going to just throw themselves into the fray with their own battle plan. Instead, they're going to try and focus on what you're doing. So if you've already made breaches, they will send some units in there but hold back a pool of reserves. So that's kind of interesting. Any claims about the AI from CA's history, we are not going to take them at face value, so we really have to see how this performs. They say when the AI is defending, it's all about the walls. Ranged towers, they're saying here, only face outwards. So that's a difference than the Rome and Attila, where towers could fire 360 degrees even into the city. So the main advantage here is even if you get inside the city, once you get past those murderous defenses and you take the walls, then you aren't going to be constantly pinged by these overpowered towers. So I think that's pretty cool. The towers, even if you capture them as an attacker, you can't then redirect that fire onto the defenders. So that's kind of a different take on this. I'm glad they're addressing the OP towers, but I still think they're going to be super powerful when they're facing outwards. So that's going to be somewhat interesting. The image here, again, gives us a greater view of what is going on with the battlements, the wide openings for troops to be deployed. The tower right there, you can see it looks like it has some cannons protruding from it, so these things heavily upgraded. And then also another thing to take into account is, we mentioned the flying units that can get over the walls, but also the magical abilities. If a mage is able to get up close without taking fire, he can then cast a huge spell and really demolish the defenders back there. On top of that, all the artillery that you can bring to bear, and I wonder if you can even have flying units come and drop down on these top walls, just kind of send a bunch of fell bats to swarm the Empire once we see the zombies, take that out. When we see the vampire cows, send fell bats, clear that out, and then move in with undead, cast spells all over the place with zombie dragons flying all over. So this is going to be very interesting. But anyways, that's it for this brief write-up. Of course, there's going to be more to come in terms of video and other content, but this is it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.